It started with a shimmer in the sky. Barely there, just a flicker over the hills. No explosion, no sound, nothing to scare the world awake. But something did arrive that night. Something that didn't need ships or lasers, just a reflection. In a quiet estate tucked away in California, mirrors began to twitch, shadows grew curious, and a scientist's wife watched her own reflection move before she did. They thought they were alone. They were wrong. This wasn't an invasion from the stars. It was something far worse, a perfect copy. And by the time they realized the truth, the replacements were already rehearsing, watching, smiling. Before we start, aliens hide the answer in plain sight. Can you outsmart them? Crack the pinned comment question to prove humanity's brain power reigns supreme. Watch every second, or let the cosmos laugh at us. I'll be waiting your answer. Oh yes. Please, please and please. Hit that car button in the top right corner to subscribe now. And be sure to ring the notification bell so you never miss a single one of our epic daily stories the moment they drop. Let's dive in the story. It all began with a shimmer in the sky. Not the kind you'd notice right away. No blazing fireball, no thunderous boom. Just a faint glint above the California hills. So quick and quiet you might have thought your eyes were playing tricks. But Dr. Mark Halstead knew better. He stood on the stone balcony of the summer estate, eyes locked on the stars. His hand tightened around the cold metal railing as a subtle vibration ran through the ground beneath him. Barely noticeable, but there. He frowned. The sky was clear, the air still, yet something in the pit of his stomach turned. A scientist by training and an observer by nature, Mark had spent 20 years helping NASA explore what lay beyond. But tonight, something was different. The universe wasn't just out there. It felt like it had turned to look back. Mark? A voice called from inside. Soft, warm, and edged with playful impatience. Cassandra Halstead leaned in the doorway, arms folded, long red hair spilling over one shoulder. Her form-fitting black suit shimmered under the balcony lights, hugging her toned frame like a second skin. She arched a brow and tilted her head, letting the doorway frame her like a movie poster. You coming to dinner, or are you planning on marrying that telescope? Mark didn't turn. His voice was low, almost distant. I think something just entered our atmosphere. Cassandra smirked. So, a comet crashing into Earth. That's your excuse for skipping roast chicken now. It wasn't a comet. Mark finally looked at her, his expression unreadable. It was subtle, too precise to be natural. Cassandra's teasing smile faded. She stepped onto the balcony and joined him. You mean man-made? Worse, he murmured. Not made by any man I know. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The air grew cooler, a breeze brushing against their skin. In the distance, owls hooted. Crickets chirped. But underneath all that, something buzzed. Electronic. Foreign. Mark, you're starting to sound like those radio shows you used to mock, Cassandra said, though her tone had shifted, calm but curious. Yeah, well, he muttered, those shows never sent satellites to Mars and watched them go dark one by one. Cassandra took a deep breath. You're thinking something came back. I know something came back. A sudden gust of wind slammed the French doors shut behind them with a loud bang. They both flinched. Cassandra spun around. That wasn't funny. I didn't touch it, Mark said, already moving toward the doors. He pulled them open and stepped inside cautiously, flicking on the hallway light. Nothing. Just the usual shadows stretching along the walls of the massive estate. Too many rooms and corners for two people to fill. The house had always felt a little too big. Now it felt like it was listening. Cassandra followed him inside, her heels clicking sharply on the wooden floor. I swear if this turns into some alien home invasion story, I want a raise, she muttered. Mark gave her a tired smile. Too late to renegotiate. We already signed the lease, and whatever's out there might have signed in. From the far end of the hallway, a floorboard creaked. They both froze. No wind. No reason. Cassandra whispered, We're alone, right? Mark didn't answer. He was too busy staring at the hallway mirror. Their reflections weren't standing still. Cassandra blinked. "Mark, tell me I'm imagining that." He stepped closer to the mirror, heart thudding in his chest. Their reflections stood side by side, but something was off. Just a flicker, a delay in movement. Barely half a second, but unmistakable. Cassandra shifted her weight. In the mirror, her reflection hesitated, then followed. She gasped and took a step back. "Okay, nope. That's creepy. Tell me there's some scientific explanation for that." Mark leaned in, squinting. "It's not a trick mirror. This thing is antique, probably weighs 200 pounds. No screens, no tech. I don't care if it's cursed or carbon dated," she snapped, backing away. That was not normal. Mark exhaled slowly. "I think it's time we check the system logs." Cassandra stared at him. "You're going to leave the ghost mirror and go look at data?" "Yes," he said calmly, "because if I'm right, this isn't a ghost story." She folded her arms. "Then what is it?" He met her eyes. "Surveillance." Down in the study, Mark powered on his laptop and connected to the NASA uplink. Data rolled across the screen in endless streams of green text, but his eyes scanned it with practiced ease. Cassandra stood behind him, arms wrapped tightly around herself. "You really think something came back with the satellite? It's not just a theory anymore," he muttered. "Look at this." He pointed to a string of coded entries. Telemetry reboots, multiple pings to unknown IPs, satellite camera feed, redirected right before reentry. Cassandra leaned in. Redirected to where? That's the thing. He tapped a blinking red field. The signal bounced through 10 relays and vanished. The final node? Right here. This house. She stared at him. "No way." Mark nodded. "They're in our system. Maybe even the estate's power grid." A soft ding echoed from the hallway. They both turned. The microwave had turned itself on. Mark rose slowly. "Did you set a timer?" "No," Cassandra said, her voice tight. "And I haven't cooked anything since lunch." The microwave door opened with a hiss. "Empty." Mark walked over and shut it. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The thermostat clicked. And the speakers, ones they hadn't used in months, crackled with static. A voice came through, robotic and broken. "We're here." Cassandra took a step back, shaking her head. "That was not. Mark, that was not okay." He stared at the speaker, frozen. The static resumed. Then silence. For a few moments, all they could hear was the sound of the wind tapping lightly against the window panes. Then, from outside, the faint sound of tires on gravel. Cassandra peeked through the curtains. There's a car pulling in. Mark stood beside her. Who the hell? The engine shut off. A tall figure stepped out, coat flapping in the breeze. Mark squinted. That's Blake. Cassandra frowned. Your old NASA friend? Yeah, but I didn't call him. Cassandra looked uneasy. Well, maybe they did. They exchanged a glance. Then came a knock at the door. 3 slow, steady knocks. Mark opened the door. Dr. Blake Morgan stood on the porch, wind-blown and pale. You need to let me in, he said urgently. Mark blinked. What's going on? Blake stepped forward. We have a problem. A big one. Inside the mirror, Blake had already entered. Dr. Blake Morgan stepped into the hallway, brushing rain from his coat. His eyes darted around like he expected something to jump out of the shadows. Mark shut the door behind him and locked it, double-checking the bolt. Cassandra folded her arms, standing at a careful distance. You're pale, Blake, and not the I skipped breakfast kind of pale. What's going on? Blake ran a shaky hand through his damp, silver-streaked hair. They're not just messing with our satellites anymore. They've moved on. They are learning. Learning what? Mark asked, voice low. Us. The lights flickered overhead, like they were reacting to the very word. Blake froze and looked up. They're watching everything. I don't know how, but it's like they're studying our behavior, our emotions, our patterns. Cassandra narrowed her eyes. You said they nodded. You're not talking about a machine malfunction, are you? Blake met her gaze. I'm not sure it's mechanical anymore. Mark gestured toward the study. Come see this. The three of them moved quickly. Mark pulled up the footage from a Mars relay, frames captured just before the system shut down. At first, the screen just showed rocky terrain, dust clouds swirling. Then something moved. Not walked, not flew, just moved like a ripple in space. A shimmer, almost like heat haze. Cassandra leaned in. "Is that a distortion?" Blake whispered. "We saw the same thing on 4 different satellites. Just before blackout. It doesn't have a shape. It doesn't need one." Mark's voice grew tight. It hijacked the camera feed, redirected it here. "It's inside the estate's network now." Cassandra swallowed. "So this house is what? Its landing pad?" Blake shook his head. "Not a landing pad. A mirror." Cassandra raised a brow. "A what?" "They're not trying to attack," Blake said slowly. "They're trying to become. They're reflecting us. Testing how well they can duplicate what we are." "Replicants?" Mark asked. Blake nodded. "We found 5 confirmed cases in the last 72 hours. People who saw themselves in places they shouldn't have been. On streets, in homes, in mirrors. And then they vanished." "Vanished how?" Cassandra asked. "Gone. As if they never existed." Just then, from the hallway came a loud thud. All 3 turned sharply. Cassandra whispered, "Please tell me that was the cat we don't own." Mark moved first, grabbing the fireplace poker from the wall and creeping toward the sound. The hallway was dark, the old floor creaking underfoot. Another thud, followed by laughter. His own. He stopped cold. The laugh echoed softly, identical to his voice, but distorted, like it had learned the rhythm, but not the soul. He turned the corner fast, poker raised, ready to strike. No one was there. Only the hallway mirror, stretching from floor to ceiling. Cassandra and Blake joined him seconds later. Blake's jaw dropped. In the reflection, they were all still walking toward the mirror, but they had already stopped. Cassandra whispered, "That's not us." Mark raised the poker toward the glass. Then his reflection smirked. Just his. And behind that smirk, something shifted in its eyes. Something that didn't belong to any human being. Mark staggered back from the mirror, nearly dropping the fireplace poker. "Did you see that?" he said, voice hoarse. Blake nodded slowly. "It smiled before you did." "That's impossible," Cassandra muttered, inching closer, her heels clicking softly on the hardwood floor. Reflections don't move first. They never move first. The image in the mirror flickered, just once, and then everything appeared normal again. Their reflections stood frozen, motionless, staring straight back. Mark's breath quickened. "It's copying me. Not just mimicking, learning." Blake stepped closer, his tone tight. "That wasn't a reflection. That was a rehearsal." Cassandra looked from one to the other. "Rehearsal for what?" A low hum vibrated through the walls. The light bulbs overhead dimmed, then brightened, then pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Mark whispered, "It's adapting." Without warning, the mirror cracked, just a thin line running vertically across the glass. But it stretched slowly, like a growing scar. Cassandra jumped. "Okay, that's it. I want out of this fun house now." "Wait," Blake said, grabbing her arm. "Listen." From deeper inside the house came footsteps. Slow, measured, heavy. Mark's grip tightened on the poker. "We're not alone." They moved together down the hallway, every shadow feeling thicker than it should. The footsteps stopped. Then a whisper came through the vents. "Which one of you will be first?" Cassandra's eyes widened. "Did you hear that?" Mark nodded grimly. "Yeah, and it sounded like me." They rounded the corner and stopped dead. Standing at the end of the hallway was another Mark. Identical in every way, same gray t-shirt, same cautious eyes. But the way he stood was off. Too stiff, too still. Fake Mark tilted his head. "You're frightened," it said, voice flat. "That's good. It means the programming is improving." The real Mark stepped forward. "What do you want?" Fake Mark smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "We want to fit in." Cassandra moved beside her husband, whispering, "We?" Behind the imposter, 2 more figures stepped from the shadows. Mirror versions of Cassandra and Blake. Their movements were jerky, just a second out of sync, like badly edited footage. Blake's hand went to his belt. "I left my gun in the car." "Great," Cassandra hissed. "Maybe offer them a handshake instead." The fake Blake blinked slowly. "We will not harm you unless you resist replacement." Mark narrowed his eyes. Replacement? The trio of doppelgangers stepped forward in perfect rhythm. Blake growled, "They're copying us down to our speech. This is some twisted infiltration plan." Cassandra's double smiled, sleek suit gleaming like oil. "Not infiltration. Evolution." Real Cassandra pulled Mark back. "We need to break the mirror." Mark didn't hesitate. He turned, swung the poker hard, and shattered the hallway mirror with a loud crash. Glass exploded in every direction. The reflections vanished. So did the figures at the end of the hall. Silence. Then a whisper. "You can't break what's already inside." The thermostat clicked. Every room in the house lit up at once, and the shadows returned. They ran. Mark, Cassandra, and Blake bolted down the twisting corridor, the echo of their own footsteps chasing them like ghosts. The lights above blinked in frantic rhythms, one moment dazzling, the next pitch black. Shadows flickered against the walls, stretching longer, warping as if they were alive. "This house is a damn maze," Blake shouted, breathing hard. "It's changing," Mark said, darting left. "The layout's different." Cassandra grabbed his arm and yanked him to a stop. "Wait, you've lived here for 3 months. You're saying this hallway didn't exist yesterday?" He spun around, eyes wide. Not even close. That door wasn't there either. A wooden door stood at the end of the corridor. It was cracked open, leaking a soft, reddish glow. Blake muttered, "Either we open it, or we let the shadows herd us wherever they want." Mark nodded. "We choose the door." They approached cautiously. Mark reached for the handle and paused. "Ready?" he asked. Cassandra raised an eyebrow. "As I'll ever be." He pushed the door open. The room beyond was circular, completely alien in design. Smooth walls with no corners. Symbols glowed faintly in the floor, like circuitry carved into stone. Hovering above the center of the room was a translucent orb, slowly spinning. Inside it, images flickered. Not just random pictures, memories. Cassandra's face. Blake's laughter. Mark, working late in the lab. "Oh my God," Cassandra whispered. "That's us. It's recording us." Blake stepped forward, mesmerized. "It's not just recording. It's replicating. Look at the timing. These are events that haven't happened yet." Mark's stomach twisted. "It's predicting." A soft tone echoed through the chamber. Then voices. Their own voices bouncing off the walls. "We will understand you better than you understand yourselves." Cassandra backed away. "This place is wrong. It feels wrong." Mark stared into the orb. "It's using the house as a lab. Each room is part of a larger system." Blake nodded slowly. "And we're the rats." Suddenly, the orb glowed brighter. The walls pulsed. Panels began to shift, revealing alcoves behind the smooth walls. Inside each one stood a copy of them. Dozens of versions. Motionless. Lifeless. But waiting. Cassandra gasped. "They're building backups." Mark grabbed her hand. "We need to destroy this place." Blake pulled a small device from his coat. Remote EMP. "I brought it in case we had to wipe a drone. Might be enough to fry the network." He sat on the ground and pressed a button. A 30-second countdown lit up. A sudden metallic screech echoed from the hallway behind them. "They know," Blake hissed. The doppelgangers stirred. One of the fake Cassandras opened her eyes. "You're too late." The countdown ticked down. 18, 17, 16. Mark yelled, "Run, now." They sprinted back through the corridor as alarms screamed through the house. Lights surged. Walls groaned. Behind them, the chamber burst into white light. Then silence. Outside, the night was still, but the mansion began to rearrange itself. The road twisted like a ribbon through the trees, headlights slicing the dark. Mark gripped the wheel tighter than he needed to, knuckles white, jaw locked. The forest around them was silent, eerily so, No crickets, no wind. Just the low hum of tires on asphalt and the rapid pulse of 3 racing hearts. Blake sat in the back seat, eyes darting between the laptop on his knees and the passing trees. Cassandra stared ahead, arms folded tight. So, did we actually destroy that room, or just piss it off? Blake didn't look up. The EMP should have fried the neural net. At least temporarily. Temporarily, she snapped. That's your expert opinion? We're dealing with alien AI doppelgangers, and you gave a nap. Mark's voice was tense. We didn't have a lot of options, Cass. We're alive. Let's focus on that. She sighed, leaned her head against the window. Barely. The GPS on the dash beeped. Blake sat up. Next right. NASA Field Outpost, 2 miles down. Mark turned the wheel. The car bumped onto a gravel road, dust swirling behind them. Cassandra glanced at him. What exactly are we hoping to find there? Backup files, Blake said. Old communication records. Unfiltered logs from the satellite before the signal was redirected. Mark added, and maybe a way to shut them down permanently. They pulled up to a small, bunker-like structure nestled between the trees. Mark killed the engine. The building loomed in the dark, barely visible. Cozy, Cassandra muttered. Just the place I want to be when reality collapses. Inside, the outpost was dim and cold, running on emergency power. Mark flipped a few switches. The mainframe hummed to life. Blake rushed to the terminal and plugged his laptop. Data scrolled rapidly. Cassandra hovered behind them, chewing her lip. Tell me you're finding something useful. Blake's fingers flew across the keyboard. Wait here. A timestamp. He pulled up a log. A single entry blinked on the screen. Initiate cycle. Confirmation. Human template success. Mark leaned closer. That was logged 24 hours before the satellite even landed. Blake whispered. They didn't hitch a ride back from Mars. They were already here. Cassandra stiffened. Then what was the satellite for? Blake's face paled. A trigger. It activated them. Mark's voice dropped. They were dormant. And now, Blake said, they're waking up. Suddenly, Cassandra swayed. Whoa. Okay, what? She stumbled into Mark's arms. Her body tensed. Eyes fluttered open, but they stared blankly at the ceiling. Cass. Mark shook her. Cassandra, talk to me. Blake checked her pulse. It's steady, but it's like she's sinking. Mark looked at him, panicked. With what? Blake stared at the screen. With them. Suddenly, the monitor blinked. A new message appeared. Target sync complete. Begin replication. Primary Cassandra. The room dimmed. Outside, the forest rustled. Mark held her tighter, whispering, I'm not losing you. You hear me? I'm not. The mainframe lights flickered again, then went dark, and Cassandra stopped breathing. Cassandra! No, come on. Mark shook her shoulders, voice cracking with panic. Her eyes were open but lifeless, pupils dilated, chest still. He pressed his ear to her heart. Nothing. Blake, do something. Mark snapped, desperation rising like a flood. Blake was already moving, tearing open a first aid kit from the wall. She's in a full neural lock. I've seen this before, just not in a person. Mark started chest compressions, every pump fueled by dread. You're not a system. You're not a copy. You're Cassandra, damn it. Wake up. Blake jammed a small injector into her arm and pressed the trigger. A hiss of air, a pause, and then gasp. Cassandra's body jolted. Her eyes flicked wildly before locking on Mark. He caught her face in his hands. Hey, there you are. I've got you. She blinked, shaky but alive. Mark, they were in my head. I know, he whispered. But you're back. Blake stared at the terminal. That wasn't a full possession. It was a test. A transfer attempt. They nearly succeeded. Cassandra struggled to sit up. They showed me things, memories that weren't mine. Faces I've never seen. But one thing kept repeating. Mark helped her lean against the wall. What? She looked at him, eyes dark and serious. A symbol. Red. Glowing. A stone. Blake froze. Wait, did you say a red stone? Mark reached into his coat pocket slowly. From inside, he pulled out a smooth, palm-sized rock, glowing faintly crimson. He stared at it like it had just appeared. Blake stepped back. "Where did you get that?" I don't know," Mark said quietly. "I don't remember picking it up." Cassandra stared at it, trembling. "That's it. That was the core of everything I saw." The terminal blinked. Core identified. Anchor active. Initialization complete. The orb inside the estate. The shifting house. The mirrors. It all made sense. Mark's hand trembled. "It's not from Mars. It never was. It was buried here on Earth. The mission didn't bring anything back. It woke something up." Blake's voice dropped to a whisper. "It used Mars as a signal. A distraction. While everyone looked out there, it reached in here." The red glow pulsed once, stronger. Then the console fried, smoke rising. Outside, the sky shimmered. Not with light, but with reflections. High above the trees, massive mirror-like surfaces rippled into view, hidden behind frequencies the human I hadn't noticed. Until now. Dozens of them. Hovering. Watching. Mark clenched the stone. "If this is the anchor," Blake nodded. "Destroy it." Cassandra reached for Mark's hand. "Wait." They looked at her. She spoke softly. "If we destroy it now, we might erase them. But if we keep it, we might learn how they came to be." "Why?" "They almost erased you," Mark said. "And I came back," she replied. "Which means there's a weakness in their system. We could use that." Blake exhaled. "It's your call, Mark." He stared at the glowing stone, heart pounding. Then he wrapped it in a cloth and slipped it back into his coat. "We end it, but on our terms." Outside, the mirrors began to fade, but not vanish. Not yet, because the war wasn't over. It was just beginning. Here is The Story Ends. If you enjoyed and want to watch more thrilling sci-fi adventures, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Dive into epic battles, explore distant galaxies, and join brave heroes as they fight for survival against impossible odds. Let us know in comments if you want next chapters to publish soon. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and become part of the journey. Together, we'll keep the last light burning. Subscribe now and let the adventure continue.